Well, I am super excited today to welcome into Zakinova Team Podcast a very amazing individual that I had the privilege of meeting through my son Gabriel, Rob Burns, and professional licensed home inspector with engineering background, who is a master expert for the past 20 years, who is running family-owned and operating business with his immediate two sons. It's just an incredible opportunity for me to have you in today in this studio. So I cannot wait for you to pour all your knowledge, all your wisdom, and everything that you have the privilege of giving back to the communities for the past 20 years. Let's dive right in. Well, the very first question I have for you, my dear, is what type of inspections do you do? Regular residential home inspectors only, or is there a mixture of commercial and residential? I want my followers, my audience to know who you are, what you do, and how great you are when they're buying their first, or maybe continuing to invest into many different homes. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Rob Byrne. Like you said, I'm a licensed home inspector, New York State licensed home inspector with a background in engineering. We do commercial and residential inspections. We have two family-owned companies. The one that we do the residential under is higher elevation home inspections, and we have a commercial division which is called East Coast Commercials Inspection. So we do that all up and down the East Coast. Sometimes we get jobs that are 3 to 5 days long. We have to travel with a team, and then we do on-site. They're big jobs. Otherwise, local mixed-use buildings for commercial inspections, a lot of those. That's the commercial side. But mostly, I guess what we're going to focus on is the residential side with today's conversation. So with that said, again, background in engineering, licensed home inspector, and in our trade association, we are affiliated with it's called Intricacies. That's our trade organization. I am a certified master inspector. That very few people in the industry have that. That comes with, just experience and time and knowledge. And the nice thing about certified master inspector is they do a background check on you. So I know some guys have the qualifications to be a certified master inspector, but there's a couple of bumps in the road that they can't get that certification. But luckily, I'm able to get that. And that's unique in our industry, as well as certified professional inspector. So CMI and CPI through Intricacies, which is the largest home inspection trade organization in the country.
Absolutely. What is your smallest and the largest projects that you have done?
Smallest projects are like a 1-bedroom, 1-bath co-op.
So you do co-ops too?
Yep, co-ops, condos. That would be the smallest. Then you work your way up residentially, capes,
Multifamilies.
splits, multifamilies. On the residential side, you can do a multifamily. You could do a residential inspection up to 4 units. So anything above 4 units would be under a commercial inspection. And they're 2 different categories, they're 2 different standards of procedure with
the requirements.
Yes.
What is the largest projects you have ever done?
We've done lumber yards, which over a couple of 100,000 square feet. We've done hotels. We've done hospitals. We've done. We just did one the other day. Big one coming up is dental offices. For some reason, we've been doing a lot of dental offices on the commercial side, veterinarian offices. So I think what's happening is the doctors that have been around a while, they're kind of phasing out. They own the property, so they're selling the property and the practice together. So they're basically cashing out and deciding to just enjoy their retirement.
So you're seeing buyers are buying this type of properties, or is the sellers that are doing pre-inspection before they sell?
Well, on the commercial side, the people that are selling it, usually what will happen is another dentist will buy the property because it's already set up.
And they know the books probably.
Yeah. I'm sure they're selling the business with their patients as well. So all depends.
So the book of business is included.
Yep. So sometimes, like we did a veterinarian office, that it's not going to be a vet's office anymore. They're changing it into
something else.
I think it was going to be like an accountant's office or something like that. But still, it's a commercial space that they're using. So that's pretty interesting.
Rob, earlier you mentioned that when you go on a big commercial inspections, you have multiple guys coming with you to inspect. Who is part of your team? Who is included? If, let's say, it's a huge building in Manhattan.
Yep. We're a family-owned and operated business. So my son, Christopher, is part of the team. He's been a licensed inspector for over 4 years now. And in that period of time, he probably has well over 1,000 inspections under his belt in that short period of time.
Wow.
We're blessed to be, we're busy. So we're out there every day doing it, 2, 3 a day. As we're having this podcast now, he's out with the other team and they're doing inspections.
Excellent.
So we got the ability to be here and do that. But back to your question, what you talked about, we can go on a big inspection and go with a 6-person team. I have a very good friend of mine. We grew up together from when we were little kids. His name is Charlie. He comes out. He's an electrician. So we have electrical people that come out on the inspection. I have another very good friend of mine who is a retired chief in the fire department. He has a structural engineering background. So when we do these commercial inspections, those things help a lot with doing the commercial side of it. And my son is well-versed in pretty much everything that we do in the engineering field as well as in the home inspections on the commercial end. So, yes, we can go with 6, 7 people on an inspection. And it's interesting because when people call you to talk to you about the job and you tell them, yeah, we could do that in a day or two, and they're like, how is that possible? We just talked to 3 other inspection companies and they said it's going to be a 3 to 5 day process. Well, how many people are they going with? So the answer is, they're coming with like 1 or 2.
So you have
inspectors.
a power team that is divided into the professionals that are masters to inspect what needs to be inspected.
Correct.
This is great to know.
Correct.
I think it's a great opportunity. Like the other day, I had a problem, right, with one of my deals. And after home inspection, we got a report, and the sellers had to remediate certain problems. And in our case, it was a problem with mold.
Yep.
And the mold came up. It's a very, very well-maintained house, but the mold came up in the boiler room. Mm-hmm. And so me and my partner, Eileen, we were like a little bit overwhelmed. How are we going to resolve this? The seller is looking up to us like, what do we do now? And I called you up and you were like, okay, just call my friends. And it was Dave, I believe, right?
Correct.
And then Dave couldn't resolve the issue, and then he recommended another gentleman. So we got it all resolved, and I want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome.
There is a Russian saying that is very popular. Do not have $100. Have 100 connections. And this is what I've been learning to build in this business. People usually call me for very different reasons, different scenarios. And people just reach out to me, hey, Olga, I need help with this. Hey, Olga, I need help with that. But you know what? I love this kind of phone calls because that gives me the opportunity to connect with more people. And this is how I build my book of business. I don't advertise too much, okay? But I feel that my connections and my relationships are bringing the most elite professionals and individuals to service my clients. And this is what I enjoy the most, right? I want to do the right thing for my clients, and I want my clients to become my walking and talking billboards that pretty much I have the privilege of servicing, really very diving deep into giving my unconditional, undivided attention to my clients, and then they just refer me business, and that's how my business multiplies. And so that's what we always talk about. If you need anything, you have any questions, we have professionals like Rob, and we can always direct you in the right way to use the right people that are very well experienced with good intentions. Yep. So why do you think it is important generally to inspect a property?
Well,
for anyone that's buying or investing, why do you think it's important?
Perfect example. You had that mold situation.
Right.
Okay. And you called me up you got in touch with Dave. Dave got in touch with John, and if I'm not mistaken, it was done within a couple of
24
days.
hours.
Yeah, 24 hours. So you bring up a good point of having the right connections.
Correct.
People that you could 100% trust.
Trust.
Now, anybody I recommend, we've broken bread together, we've had dinner, we know each other on a social level, and if I feel I can't trust that person
yeah.
or have them around my family, why would I recommend them to
To
you?
the client.
So the minute you called Dave, you were comfortable. Dave took care of it. Well, the thing with the mold, and that's a good point you brought up with mold, because what happens is in the industry, someone like Dave has to come in and he has to test for the mold. He has to identify the mold and what it is. Now, he can't do the remediation. So that's why John comes in and does the remediation, because then it's a conflict of interest. So he's
one
part of our
inspector
team.
or one person cannot identify the problems and fix the problem.
Correct.
Why is that in
Conflict of interest. Because I'm going to come into your house, well, not us, but someone will come into your house and say, oh, you got all of this mold here, and, they just make more work. So it's kind of, New York State has like a check and balance. So you're going to go in, you're going to identify it, test for it, and be specific
somebody
as
else
to what
has
it is.
to remediate it?
Right, because it's a whole process,
Right.
closing everything off, having,
Right.
special filters because you don't want that going through the house. So
Right.
it's totally specialized. So I'm glad that worked out, and they're good guys.
Thank you to you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Well, also, we have a lot of problems sometimes in the reports throughout the process of inspecting the home, asbestos, right? Like, I just started this business 20 plus years ago, and I still don't understand. If asbestos are that bad for you, why were they installed back in the days? And sometimes I'm confused, like, okay, they were installed back then, but now we have to remove them. And not only just remove them, they have to be removed properly.
Yes.
So how does it work?
Just like the mold, it's an environmental hazard, whether it's mold, asbestos, lead, anything to that nature. So what happens is, a very, very long time ago, asbestos is a great insulator. So they used it for many, many years. And the parallel is this. I always tell people, when we were kids and we drove in the car with our parents, we never wore seatbelts.
Right.
You're too young to know that, but we literally would drive in the car with our parents, no seatbelts. There'd be 10, 15 of us packed in the back of the car. Try to do that today, you'll go to jail.
Right.
And not only that, when you get in your car, the first thing you do is, without even thinking, you put your seatbelt on. So you're in that comfort level. Parallel that to asbestos, they didn't know any better. But then as people started getting sick, and with the, lung cancer and asbestosis and all this other stuff, they researched it and they realized that this is a major concern. So now they don't use it anymore. As a matter of fact, just last week or 2 weeks ago, there is some asbestos still used in our world. Brake pads on cars. There's a little bit of asbestos in it. But now the government doesn't even want it in that, even though it's on the outside, but it's still going into the environment, even if it's in the outside air.
We're breathing it.
So now, no more asbestos on brake pads. So all of those things that where asbestos was used throughout the years, they're totally taking them out of our lives today. Rightfully so, because it's a known cancer-causing agent.
Wow.
It's got to go.
What are the most important parts of the home inspection that the buyer, especially first-time home buyer, must know?
Who to pick as their home inspector.
That's a good one.
Serious. Because just like we talked about before, you have a home inspection license. Okay. So you're a home inspector. So I get these phone calls all the time from clients, and the first question out of their mouth is, how much do you charge for a home inspection? And I tell them, wrong question. Like, what do you mean? I said, first of all, I don't even know the size of your house. We do houses $600-700. We do houses up to $6,000-7,000. Huge houses out in the Hamptons, big houses, Brookville, Muttontown, huge houses. So I tell them, I said, do yourself a favor. Take out a pen and a piece of paper, because I'm going to give you some tips. whether you use us or not, all about education. I know you're shopping around, and that's okay. I respect that. But know what you're shopping for and what you're going to buy. So write down these few questions, and then I don't try to sell them. I don't even give them a price. I say, do yourself a favor, shop around. If you need us, we're here. Call us. So I give them the list. One of the questions is, how long are you licensed? How many inspections do you do a year? Do you walk the roof? Most people don't know. We come with 2 licensed inspectors on all inspections. Are you termite certified? What do you got? So if you're going to go with somebody that's charging a couple of $100 less, you get what you pay for. So I tell them, find out all of these things and just ask, shop around, do what you got to do. And I'm here. If you need me, just give me a call. No problem. Good luck.
I love
Do
that.
you know within an hour I get I say, oh, by the way, you're going to pick 5 inspectors out of, off of the online. This is what's going to happen. 2 of them are not going to answer their phone. One of them is going to not be available for you.
Right.
And the other 2, it's, they can only do it on the weekends. So what happens is you have some people that do it part-time. We do it full-time.
I didn't know
7 days a
that.
week.
Wow.
364 days a year.
Wow.
No 365 because we don't do it on Christmas. But most of the times we will get in early if it's like Christmas Eve or something like that. We'll do it because in the industry you have to be there yesterday.
You work when everybody's off.
You got to be there yesterday.
You got to work.
Yep. So I told them, and they'll call me back and they're like, "Wow, you were so right. 2 people didn't answer their phone.
See?
One guy only does it on the weekend, and
I need
one
to
guy
get it done now."
Yes. I said, "Okay. So what do you need?" And then it's done, and you already had a conversation. People are familiar with you, and then let's just talk about it. What's the house? Send me the listing. Let me look at it. Then I'll give them a price. And it's really simple. It's really simple.
So termites are always coming up in our case. I mean, every single house in Queens, when we're doing home inspections with our clients, that comes up. Does the house have termites? Does the house have termites? That's a number one question that comes up usually during the reports and inspections. Are you licensed to do the termites as well? And is it part of your package?
Yes, absolutely. We are New York State DEC licensed to do the termite inspection and fill out that MP33 form that usually goes to the bank or the attorney. That verifies, and it's New York State. It says, okay, if you have termites, we document it, we show it. If we don't see termites or anything like that, then we fill out the form that
doesn't have any
that you can see. But you got to remember, the house, all the walls and stuff are finished, but you have to know the hot areas to look at, like the boiler room. They're always there because there's always moisture and heat. They like that. But it's important to do that. And the one question that drives me nuts is that someone will always ask, are they active? I'm like, is the house being treated? If the answer is no, then there's a good possibility they are, because termites can be in one section today, and then they can move and go to another section behind the wall in a month or 2, and they could be eating your house. So I tell people like this. You go to the dentist. You have a cavity. Cavity has to be fixed. If it's not, what happens? It gets worse. Then it becomes a root canal.
Right.
Now you go into the endodontist. So the fact that you're not treating for termites is a very good possibility that they're somewhere else in the house. Like if we inspect, we'll see damaged wood, we'll see mud tubes, we'll see the evidence of, but we won't see the termites. Also, termites are subterranean. So in the wintertime, they kind of hibernate, and then they come back out. And exactly. Swarming season.
May.
Yes. May.
May is when I'm witnessing the most of them coming out in different locations, different homes.
Now they're coming out sooner, and we've gotten phone calls already and been on a couple of inspections where they're swarming already because we had a mild winter.
Oh, wow.
Think about that. Mild winter, things are happening.
So what's your best piece of advice to prevent termites to even exist in a house?
Great question. Termites need water just like any other living organism. Flowers, plants, humans, animals, termites. If you eliminate water, and that's the number one cause, basement moisture, as well as termites and any kind of animal, keep moisture away from the house. I tell all my clients, water is the enemy to a house.
Interesting.
Just keep the water controlled, going down the drains, going in your sinks, but outside, downspouts and gutters, away from the house. No negative sloping where the land is sloping towards the house and the water's piling up against the house. These are all reasons and causes that you will get termites. Keeping trees and plants trimmed away from the house, because that's all food source for them, and it attracts them. So water is the number one reason. That's why they're always in the boiler room, because it's warm. Boiler rooms are if you got steam heat,
Cozy.
It's cozy. There's usually some type of moisture in there. But yeah, I tell people termites are like vampires. They can't see the light of day because they have a very thin skin. The exoskeleton is very, very thin. So if they're exposed to dry air, they'll disintegrate as well as the light. So they will be in, and that's how they travel in those mud tubes. They can't see light. So that's a great question, termites. And I tell people two things. There's two types of houses, ones that have termites and ones that will get termites. So it's a simple fact.
You can never eliminate for good.
Just you gotta
maintain it,
prevent it, seal all the little thin settlement cracks on the foundations.
Right.
That's how they get in.
Do you guys treat termites?
No, we don't. We don't.
Do you refer anybody?
Yes, we have our team. Yep, people that are well vetted. Most
and it's
people.
Very expensive, I believe.
Sometimes it depends on the property size
and the situation.
Yes, if it's really heavily damaged, then they have to go in and do spot treatments, or they, if it's a big house and you got a big property, you have to put more baiting stations around.
So let's go from the basement, because that's where termites are usually likes to hang out. Let's go all the way up to the roof. So how do you guys get to the roof? How do you guys inspect the roof? Let's say I'm buying a house and I need you to inspect the roof. How do you guys manage to get on top?
We walk over 90% of our roofs. So again, we're a two-person team, so we're able to do things that most single inspectors cannot do. And one of them is getting on the roof. So with us, it's all about safety. It's all about knowing how to do it. One inspector's on the roof. The other inspector's always spotting, holding the ladder, making sure everything's okay. And we have protocols on how we do it. We tie the ladders off on the gutters, all that kind of stuff. Most people don't walk the roofs today.
Correct.
Everybody's with the drones and the this and the that. But drones are good for a couple of things. But I want to walk that roof.
Physically see it.
Yes. See how the roof feels underneath. A lot of times we walk on roofs and you can see them and feel them moving. Sometimes it's not a big deal because it's been that way for 50 years. But looking up close at the shingles, you could see the granular loss. You can see certain things that you won't see. I mean, how you gonna fly this drone over the whole roof at a low level, whereas if you're on the roof with your eyes, you can see and feel and really get a handle on things. The condition. Yep, the back of the chimney, the flashing behind the chimney, where all the water usually accumulates and goes in. The top of the chimney, the crown, like so many different things that 100%, if we could walk the roof, we'd do it. Now, an example that you wouldn't have to walk the roof would be a Cape-style house. Because the roofs are so steep. It's right in your face. It's like looking at a wall almost.
Right.
But all the other type of houses, especially flat roofs. We did a house in Long Beach, a re-inspection. My client had an inspection. It was his dad's friend's son, like 4 people deep. All right, I'll have him. Does the inspection. Big house. Single inspector, done in 45 minutes.
Wow.
So my client, first time.
It wasn't an inspection, it was a walkthrough.
Yeah, exactly. So my client said, he goes, I'm a first-time home buyer, but I was looking at things that he didn't even bring to my attention. He had a flat roof. You got on the flat roof, you're on top of the garage, then you set up another ladder and you get on the upper flat roof. Olga, if I tell you it was the worst flat roof I've seen
in your life.
It did not rain for over 5 days, and there was a pond up there. It was like I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
It was so much water on that roof. And I said, but wait a second. Even if it didn't rain for 2 weeks and it evaporated, you would still see that indentation in the roof, and you would still see the debris from the water evaporating. You know, just by looking at it, that this is an issue. Nothing. Now, we were there, my son and I were there for I think it was maybe 2.5. Let's call it 2.5 hours. Now, 2.5 hours times 2 inspectors, that's 5 man-hours.
Wow.
And he was blown away. He's like, oh, my God. He goes, this is nothing. I said, well, good thing you were smart enough to realize that you didn't get the right inspection. So we did it. Make a long story short, he was happy. And that's why we do what we do, like you're talking about with the roof.
Right.
When
you're talking about the roof, I know that sometimes roofs could have things or objects blocking them. So for clear access to the actual roof, especially nowadays, people installing the solar panels. And how do you feel about those?
Solar panels are tough because it's a limitation. I can't see underneath that solar panel.
Mm-hmm.
And you, as the buyer, are going to assume that contract that the seller entered into.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it gets diverted to you reading the contract well or your attorney.
Correct.
So if you're halfway through the contract, you're going to assume the contract. What if it's an upside-down contract that it's terrible? Like if you have a problem with your roof, you have to remove those panels to repair or replace your roof. Who's doing that? Is the company doing it? Are they not doing it? What's at the end of the contract? What's the buyout at the end of the contract? Is it you buy it back for X amount of dollars? Do you own it? Is it leased? Just like a car. You don't own it. You're leasing it and you're giving it back to the company. Are you doing that? It's so complicated. And I've seen probably more than 50% of the deals that we do go sideways because of the solar panels.
Wow.
People don't want that, assume that. And it's older technology. If the panels are up for 10 years, the technology today is so much better than it was 10 years ago. So now you're using older panels that are not as efficient.
Correct.
As opposed to you putting up your own with state-of-the-art panels today.
It's like an Apple Watch. Or Apple phone. Constantly upgrading, constantly growing, constantly changing.
Great point.
But I'll tell you the truth. I will reveal to you the truth that my brain is a very scary place to be. Because I never think of this moment right now. I'm always thinking about what's going to happen if.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what really bugs me with solar panels. Okay, I'm going to save a few dollars today, right now. But what happens if the roof has a problem?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if, the shingles fly off? What happens if I need to bring an inspector and inspect the roof and then now I have to deal with this solar panel nonsense? So my professional opinion, every time I get phone calls from those companies, I'm like, you know what? Thank you very much, but no. I just don't see the need for solar panels on my house.
On your house.
I know that my cousin did it. I know my couple of friends and family members did it. But for Olga's interesting brain, I just feel like, you know what? What's going to happen down the road? Mm-hmm. And down the road, I'm sure there will be some changes, some improvements, some different ways of doing things. And I just never have it in my mind on my approval list. So for me, it's a no-no. Yep. But when clients ask me that question, I'm like, you know what? Just keep it flat, keep it open, keep it free and clear, because my belief is that I'm very spiritual, and I really don't believe in any electronics being on top of me. Mm-hmm. That's blocking easy, free access for the sun to radiate its natural sunlight into my home. So that's why I just like to keep it completely free and clear, and I don't want anything on top of my roof. Mm-hmm. So let's leave the roof to the side. Let's talk about actual reports. How long does it take you to give me a report if I would to choose you as a consumer?
Like I said, we go with a 2-person team. So when we're doing the inspection, we have very sophisticated report writing software where if I'm on my mobile phone or Christopher's on his or anybody on our team, perfect example, when we do a commercial inspection, we have multiple inspectors with us. So we might have 5, 6 inspectors. Everybody's on their mobile device entering data in. And then we sync it as we're going along. Then it all goes up to this cloud thing that they call storage. And then everybody gets to see what each person is working on. Then at the end of it, we do a full sync, and I could literally hand you the report on site.
Wow.
But as we talked about, I'm very OCD about my reports. So I like to digest them, take them home, because we were just talking about solar panels, technology. Things happen. I orientate my camera to take a picture. We go back home and look at it. It's upside down. Now, I know I didn't take the picture upside down. I wasn't standing on my head, but it happens. So the last thing I want my client to get is a report with upside down pictures. It doesn't look professional.
Correct.
So I tell them, usually by the time they wake up in the morning, it'll be in their email, because we'll work on the reports. And again, as a multi-person team, everybody's working on the reports, so we're getting it done in a much, much quicker time. So usually by the end of the night, it's done and it's in your email the morning. Or sometimes I'll text you 9:30 at night. By the way, Olga, check your email. Just sent you the report.
The report is ready.
Make sure you can open it. Any questions, call me. But I can deliver it right then and there. And what gets me crazy is some people like, I need it now. I need it now. But if I give it to you now, you're not even going to open it. Do you know how many times I'll send somebody to report that night, and I can view on my end when it
If
was
they
opened
opened
and
it.
how many? And like 3 days later, the person never opened it. So I'll call them up and I'll say, by the way, I said, I sent you the report. He goes, oh, yeah, I didn't get a chance to open it yet. Really? Okay, but you needed it yesterday. So it's funny. It's strange how, people, like you said, how
people's
are wired.
brains are scary places to be.
Yeah.
With all the reports and all the problems and defects and anything that could be fixed and anything that's permanent that cannot be fixed, how do you come up with estimated idea of the value that needs to be repaired?
Great question. We don't get involved in giving prices because we're not the professionals that are going to be doing the work. We have an idea. I'll have a conversation with you. For example, you need new electric. I know it's not $50,000, but I also know it's not $500.
Correct.
So I kind of give them a range, figure on
Price point.
X-ish, around there. You need all new electric. You need the service entrance cable, the meter pan, the breakers, et cetera, et cetera. So it goes into stages, but give them a kind of a ballpark. And I always tell them, make sure you get the quote from the licensed. And the most important thing is insured. Licensed and insured, because God forbid something happens, you want to, just like we all have professional insurance.
Correct.
And that was one of the other things when I would talk to the clients on the phone. We carry E&O insurance.
We all do.
Exactly. You're not required to do it, are you?
Well, Douglas Elliman, it's not negotiable.
Okay.
We have to buy one, and we buy an extra coverage.
Good for you.
Just to make sure that we are very well covered.
See? Again, that's what happens when you deal with professional people.
Correct.
You mentioned Douglas Elliman. We do a lot of work for Douglas Elliman. Every single agent is professional and knows what has to be done. As a home inspector, you do not have to carry E&O insurance. You have to carry your general liability insurance, and that's it. But I say to my client, the person that's charging you $200 less, there's a reason.
Of course.
They're not paying, X amount of dollars for E&O insurance.
Correct.
They're not going out with a two-person team. They're not getting on your roof. But that's a really good point about the insurance. It's very, very, because if I mess up, and E&O insurance is if we miss something that a latent defects that we should have found.
Disclosed. Right.
You know what?
You get
God
in
forbid you
trouble.
get into a car accident, right? Well, here's my insurance. My insurance company's going to fix your car.
Right.
Same thing with us. God forbid we miss something. Okay.
You'll be covered.
Own up to it. Say, you know what? I missed. I mean, it has to be pretty bad. Like you said, it's not about the cosmetics. It's about the structural integrity of the house. Termites, asbestos, mold. Those are the ones that kind of come back and bite you. Listen, if there's, a damaged sheetrock, that type of stuff. But yeah, it's interesting that, I didn't realize that you guys have to, non-negotiable, carry E&O
we
insurance.
have to.
That's great. And by the way, my insurance policy, if you recommend me, God forbid there's a situation, you're covered by my insurance.
Wow.
Even though on the recommendation. So it's called additional insured.
Wow.
My policy, it covers, the The
Those that
yeah,
refer.
a lot of people don't even know about that.
Wow.
They don't have that because they're looking for the cheapest.
Yeah.
People, I have a saying when I tell them, shop by price, pay twice.
I love that.
Is that
I love
true?
that analogy.
Yeah. Shop by price,
Absolutely.
pay twice. And look, we did the inspection in Long Beach. The guy paid for an inspection. Now he's paying us again to do it the right way.
Cheap could be expensive.
Yes.
And I always talk about it. You know,
so
I will
true.
tell you this. I love good quality products. I don't go by cheap. And when I go to people's homes and I see that anybody who owns a house, they are in that level of life where they could afford good quality stuff. You didn't buy a house when you were 20, unless you won a lottery, right? Most of our clients are established individuals that know how to manage finances and they know what they're doing with money. So when you know what you're doing with money, don't spend it 2 times to get one service.
Correct.
Pay one time, hire a professional, but get good quality service that you will thank yourself for making the right choice. Right?
And it'll last twice as long.
Absolutely.
Maintain it.
Absolutely.
How many houses do we go to that people are living there for 40, 50 years
Yeah,
and they never changed anything?
absolutely.
Now these poor young couples coming in, or let's touch on the buried oil tanks. Okay, we could do that.
Yeah.
So here's my analogy with that. You're buying a house from somebody. They live there for 50, 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
They have a buried oil tank in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
For them, it's no problem, right?
Right.
But for the new couple,
It
first
is.
of all, it's 50, 60 years old. Now you're dealing with an issue that could be very, very, very costly. As a matter of fact, when they did the Newsday article, we talked about that. We talked about the fact that this is a big topic. And I know that we're going to hopefully do a podcast with a real estate attorney and discuss these things from a legal standpoint.
Absolutely. We'll do that.
Off the bat, I just tell them, discuss it with your attorney and research it. Go to the internet and Google buried oil tanks, see the importance of having it remediated. But here's the thing. If I'm selling my house and I had that oil tank and I was using it for 50 years, shouldn't it be my responsibility to abandon it properly and not pass it on to
New buyer.
a new buyer? So that's where we come in, and it's like, just discuss it with your attorney. Because I know 95% of the attorneys are going to say, listen, they're going to abandon it on their watch, not ours. Because if there's soil contamination, it opens up a can of worms. 2 quick stories. We did an inspection many, many years ago. Little old lady selling the house. Loved the clients. Young couple. She was pregnant. They were moving in. Well, they were going to move in. We found a buried oil tank. So the elderly lady, she did not know that. She knew she had a buried oil tank, but she didn't know the ramifications of a buried oil tank in the ground for 60 years. So we explained it to her. She liked our clients so much that she told them, don't worry, I will have it remediated. When they came to remediate it, the soil was contaminated.
Oh, wow.
Do you know how much it cost that lady to have that remediation done?
A lot.
$25,000. And you know what the most impressive thing about the whole thing was?
She paid for it.
She paid for it, and she was happy to pay for it because she said, I would not want you guys to get stuck with this responsibility because I used the oil tank for 50 years. It's my responsibility. She took care of it. They stayed the best of friends for many, many years.
Wow.
So she
That's very unique.
owned up to her responsibility. You have these conversations, and this is what happens. So that's a unique. The most expensive one I've heard was 6 figures.
Yes, I've heard that too.
An oil tank leaked, and it went into the next door neighbor's property underneath their driveway.
Ooh,
But wait a second. Guess what kind of driveway they had?
heated driveway?
Yep.
Wow.
Heated driveway. So all of that had to come up, all of that piping, because there was contaminated oil underneath it. So the people next door had to pay it. And most of the times, your insurance company doesn't cover environmental issues.
Wow, this is a big one.
Yeah. So you have to research all that. That's why it's very important to know if you're buying a house with a buried oil tank.
Wow.
If
this
it's
is
abandoned properly, it's certified, it's abandoned in Nassau County, it's registered with the county. You can go to any address, go to Board of Health, Department of Health, punch in the address, abandoned oil tank. If it was and it was registered with the county, it'll come up. It's great. So now the county has paperwork, no issues. So God forbid there's an issue, the county signed off on it.
Right.
You're not liable.
Well, there is so much we could cover, right? But I want to cover also the most important part of an area that I hear a lot lately. And it's very surprising because when we came to this country, all we knew is that you have a gas, you have an oil, and then now we are forced into electrical way of running life. So one of my cousins is a very big builder, and he recently bought a piece of property with us. And every time I ask him a question like, is it done? Are you done? Are you complete? And he's telling me no. And I'm like, what's the problem? We are waiting for the gas approval. Gas approval? What are you talking about? Why is it an issue? So apparently, I didn't know that, but it just came to my attention recently that New York City does not approve any more gas lines onto new projects. Is that true?
Yes.
And why is that?
What the politicians are doing is they want to eliminate natural gas. Clearly oil. Now they want to eliminate gas. So your cousin's right, projects in the city, they have to use all electric. Now,
does that mean we're not going to have gas?
they're trying to do away with it. And
Like-
anybody that reads the paper, they see that they're trying to get away from, gas. They want to use quote unquote renewable energy. The systems that they're putting in today are a lot better than systems that were installed just 10 years ago. I have a very good friend of mine. He does this. He's big in the city. He's an HVAC contractor. What the government's doing is they're giving you rebates as well. Now, this is what I was told, maybe a year or so ago. I don't know what they're doing now, but they do want to get away from
The gas.
Yes. So they feel that electricity, you could produce it, you can, harvest it. We could start talking about windmills and all of that kind of
Right.
stuff. But it's the new systems that they're using now are a lot more efficient. So systems maybe 10 years ago, they weren't that great. So what happened was the government gave these big companies a lot of money to make these
Incentives.
heat pump systems a lot better so we can use them. The ones today, like the old ones years ago, like if you were down like 32, 33 degrees, it really didn't give you enough heat. Today, they're designed for like -10.
Wow.
So you can ask your cousin, when they put these new systems in, they work really, really well. And what's nice about it is they're variable stage. So what happens is when you have a big temperature differential and you really need a lot of heat, it'll crank it up. It'll pump a lot of hot air into it. Then as it starts getting closer to that set point, like say you have it set on 70, but you turned it on, it was 60. So it's like getting on the highway, right? You get on the entrance ramp, you're giving it a lot of gas, but once you get on the highway, you're just keeping your foot lightly on the gas and you're cruising. Same thing there. So once it gets up to that point, then it's just kind of a low velocity, warm air coming through to kind of keep everything maintained at the proper temperature and comfort level. So they've done a lot of research on that. And I've done a lot of houses with those units in, and they're really nice. Really nice.
So does that mean going forward in the next couple of years, we will not get any approval for gas and it will be completely out of the picture?
They're trying to. They're definitely trying to do that.
You think it's a healthy way of running life?
Well, we know with electricity, there's no
Guarantee,
byproducts.
right?
Well, there's there's when you're burning fossil fuels, you're creating pollution.
Right.
With electricity, you're not really doing that, depending on how they produce that electricity. So that's an interesting concept with, the government. All right, so how are we going to produce this energy? Are we going to put these big, we have a friend of mine that was out in the Midwest and they were doing these wind farms. And he goes, I don't understand how they're even going to make it feasible because the amount of money they're spending and the engineering involved to put these huge, huge windmills up, He goes, I've seen the budget. He goes, they'll probably have to produce electricity for 100 years to get back the amount of money that they put in to build these things.
Right.
Massive cranes to get those blades up. Like, you just Google it. It's a lot of work. But I guess, you're trying to save the environment by not burning fossil fuels and, oil and gas. This is one of the ways you could do it with electricity. It's cleaner energy.
What happens if, God forbid, we have another blackout like we had many years ago?
It's a problem. Yep.
Is there a way to...
Well, think about it. A whole house generator runs on what?
Wow.
Gas.
Wow.
So
we just have to sit and pray.
Yep. Now we're talking about all of this, right?
Right.
Talking about electricity.
Right.
What about the infrastructure? We can't on a summer's days that you're going
Correct.
5, 6. There's a brownout. And now you got all these cars being charged.
Right.
To doing more electricity,
Correct.
more on the power grid.
Correct.
They have to get the infrastructure up
To
before you make these changes.
be up to code.
Yes. So you want to go away from oil and gas, but now there's 100% demand on electricity. Well, we can't run our air conditioners in the summer on a hot day. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So they're thinking, they have the right thought process, but
They're not ready.
how are you going to get there?
They're not ready.
Yeah.
They're not ready to deliver.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
Wow.
Not yet. Definitely
What
not.
were the most interesting projects you've ever done, or inspections, I should say? There were either crawl space or the attic space. Did you get any surprises? Like positive and negative. Anything to share?
Yes. Crawl spaces,
Nothing fun?
ever positive. Nothing ever positive in a crawl space. What's positive when you go into a crawl space and it's done nice. It's literally becomes
Clean.
a conditioned space. It's you got the vapor retarder and insulation vapor barrier on the floor, going up on the walls. Everything's sealed up nice. You can crawl in there. You can go in as we're dressed now and not get dirty and come out with cobwebs and spider crickets on the back of your hat and all of that kind of stuff. And when you go into crawl spaces that sometimes you can't even go in there because there's standing water, there's animals. You literally flash your light and you see eyeballs peering out. Okay, we're closing that. We're not going in there. We've found skeletal remains in crawl spaces of animals that,
Wow.
the exterminators putting that poison out, and these animals wind up dying in crawl
wow.
spaces. But I think the most interesting story was maybe 5, 6 years ago, we were doing a home inspection on a house. Another elderly gentleman, he lost his wife, and he was selling his house. So we doing the whole inspection, really, really, really nice little old man. Do you guys want anything to drink? Can I make you lunch? Like just like our grandparents, it's like
Right.
you want to just
give
them a hug. No, we're okay. So we're doing the inspection. Everything is good. So we have to go into the attic.
Right.
So we look into the closet and it's packed. And I'm like, should have been emptied. The listing agent was there. And I said to her, I says, we have to get in the attic. She goes, well, how are you going to do that? Everything's, filled up in the closet. I'm like, well, after you remove everything, we're going up in the attic. I says, because that is a system of a function of the inspection that we have to get in there. There's so many things that could be up there. So she goes, all right. So we start moving all the stuff. We put it on the bed. We help out. It was a nice inspection. So we go up there, and I'm crawling around in the attic. There's nothing up. Oh, so the seller, the little old man, says to us, he goes, he called me by my name. He's like, Rob, he goes, I moved in here over 50 years ago with my wife. We've never, ever went up in the attic. Never. And I said, I could see because the closet was full, and that was the only way to get up into the attic. So I says, no worries. Like whatever his name was, call him Mr. Jones. Don't worry about it. It's okay. He goes, oh, okay, just be careful going up there. No one's ever been up there. I said, okay. So we're up there looking around. Nothing was up there. No storage, nothing. But I'm looking over in the far corner, and I see this box. I'm like,
Wow.
That's odd. It's like one box in the far end of the corner. So we have walkie-talkies when we're working. So I said to my son, Christopher, I said, I'm crawling in the far side of the attic because there's something there. I don't know what it is. She says, okay. So that's another thing. We always communicate if someone's going in a crawl space, someone's outside, safety. So I crawl all the way to the corner, and I'm looking at this box, and I'm like, oh, my goodness. It was his deceased wife's wedding dress. I'm like, no way.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, what do I do? So I come back down, and I tell the listing agent, I said, listen, there's nothing up in the attic, but Mr. Jones's wife's wedding dress is in that far corner. I said, your call. She says, you think we should tell him? I'm like,
Of course.
I don't know. I mean, it's weird. He knows they've never been up there. Obviously, when they moved into the house, the first day they moved in, they put the wedding dress up there. So she goes, tell him. I says, me? Why not you? She goes, no, you found it. So, he's sitting down, and I said, Mr. Jones, I said, I did find something up in the attic. I said, I don't know if you... He goes, what? He goes, what? I said, it was your wife's wedding dress. He started crying. I'm like, oh, my goodness. He's like, he goes, throughout the years, my wife never remembered where that wedding dress was. He always thought it was that. He goes, Rob, again, we never, ever were up in that attic. Probably the first day they put it up there, so 50 some odd years later, I said to him, would you like me to go back up there and bring it down for you? He goes, no. He goes, but I would, hopefully, the sellers will leave that wedding dress in the corner of the attic. Now my buyers are there. And they're like, absolutely. If you want, we'll keep it there as a memorial. We'll never take it down.
Wow.
And that's what they did.
Wow.
So that was a very unique and
That's
interesting
a very touching story.
Yeah, it was. And he was like, he's sitting there, and you could just see the years of
flashback.
Yes. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. And he's like, well, at least we know now where her dress was.
Oh, my gosh.
So that was an interesting story. And my son walks in the room, and he sees the little old man crying. He goes, what'd you do? Like, what do you mean, what did I do? And he's like, and I told him the story, but he was grateful. So that worked out nice. I guess it's those elderly people that always want to help out the young couples. It's like the old lady with the oil tank that was buried. She did it. So there are always some
very
nice
unique
stories.
generation.
Yes. The old timers.
Hopefully we will continue in that direction, but it looks like things are changing.
Yes.
And people are consumed more into the newer generation that has everything. And
yeah, we were talking about on your other podcast how your dad used to watch the show that Boris's dad used to produce. So
there is a connection there.
Different.
There is a connection there.
Different
definitely.
way of life, different upbringings. It's difficult today with,
Yes, with the way things are going, and everybody is so consumed of bills and expenses, and everything is growing, and everything is becoming more expensive, and now we having this lifestyle where it's completely changing rapidly, and so we just have to keep up with the times, and
But we're fortunate because we work in a family-owned and operated business like yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a unique story how we met. Should I share it with you?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So a few years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, we're doing an inspection and everybody's asking for cards, business cards. And one of the realtors that were there says to me, Rob, you should get this. It's called Instacard.
Digital business card.
Exactly. I'm like, what are you talking about? So she opens up and she shows it to me. And she goes, look, your website is on there, all your reviews, your social media. So I'm looking at it. I'm like, that's pretty interesting. So she gives me Gabe's number. So, by the way, if the listeners don't know, that's your son.
Right.
So I call him up a few days later, and I said, I'm interested in doing this Instacart. He goes, where's your real estate office? I said, I'm not a realtor. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm a home inspector. He goes, really? He goes, we don't have any home inspectors that have this card. I said, well, I like being
first.
unique, right? So we do it. Now I'm handing out this, not even handing it out, it's right, the QR code, scan it.
Easy.
So now I'm like up to the 21st century and I'm impressing people like, you got this digital card. And It's going into people's contacts and it's working well.
Right.
Gabe helped me a couple of times setting it up. I was on the phone with him. Never met him.
Right.
So then we go to that
Event.
and we're looking at each other and I'm listening to him talk and like, I know you from somewhere. Where do I know you from? And finally we figured it out. And it's like, do you have Instacart? I'm like, yes. He goes, I'm Gabe. I'm the guy that helped you set up the Instacart. I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
We never met each other, but talked on the phone.
Right.
And then he goes, oh, that's so funny. He goes, I remember I did your card. He goes, you're a family-owned business. Your son works with you. I'm like, yes. He goes, by the way, there's my mom and dad and my brother. We're a family-owned business too. And that's how we got to meet.
Amazing.
And your other son too. It was just, right? We were there for about an hour after the event just talking. And I met your partner.
Yes.
Eileen, I believe her name was.
Yes.
That was great. And
we manifested this podcast, right?
Yes. Over time, it was great. And I'm a firm believer of good people get attracted to one another, and it becomes a
like-minded people.
Yes, it becomes.
It's like a magnet.
Yep.
You come together.
Yep. And so it's great being in the family business, right?
100%, because it's just easier way of running your schedule for me specifically. I just can't imagine doing real estate and doing it by myself, because my husband probably would always question me. And I'm not a type of person that likes to be questioned unless you can't tell yet. So, my husband is with me in the business, and, he has his own share of responsibilities on day to day. I have my own shares, and we complement each other, right? And my kids have their part that they're responsible for. And, it's a happy, let's call it this way, it's a happy operation that we created. Hopefully it's going to be going in that direction for many years to come, because it's comfortable for me to know who is doing what. It's very, very unique, but very, very comfortable. But not everybody can manage that. That I could assure you. How do you do it?
I have a great working relationship with both of my sons are in the business. Christopher's out in the field with us, and my son Joseph is he went to school for finance, so he takes care of all of the bills, the books, and all of that stuff on the back end, as well as my wife. My wife helps with the books.
Nice.
She, I just do my work, just tell me what we have to pay in taxes and all that other stuff. So they take care of that end, and everybody stays in their lane. And when you have everybody doing their job, it makes a great team.
Absolutely.
And it works out well. Christopher's in the field with me. Joseph's on the back end doing the bookkeeping, as well as my wife. So she helps with that, and it just works. It's great, because when I get phone calls for inspections, the first person I text is my wife. By the way, Thursday morning, 10 a.m., Brookville or something like that.
Right.
Because then I forget, but when I come home, she's like, okay, you texted me this, this, and this. And what I like to do with my clients is I'll tell them, just, text me all the information, and then I don't open it till I get home to kind of help with that managing part of it. But then everybody starts doing their work. I'll book the inspection, I'll send out all the paperwork, and then it works.
So if anyone hires you in your family-owned business, they get pretty much how many people for the price of one?
Well, always two, unless it's a small, like, condo or a one-bedroom co-op. But even on those, we do multiple inspections in a day. So we just kind of go in, get it done, get it in the mobile app. Just when we go home, it's less report writing, and we do it. But sometimes you have to split up. Like as you said earlier, they're out in the field today. I'm able to come here and spend a wonderful afternoon with you and talk. And they're out covering the bases. I forwarded my phone calls to Christopher, so my phone's not even ringing, which is great. I kind of think I like this. I think I might be doing this more often.
Well, imagine you laying down in Boca somewhere on the beach, and your kids are you're getting the calls, and you're just transferring them over to the family.
Yep.
That's pretty much my goal.
Yep.
This is why I work very hard. I am obsessed with beautiful weather and the beach and the water, and it just clears my mind when I'm overwhelmed. This is what I like to do. And escaping hopefully once or twice a year on vacations, that's definitely something that I enjoy, especially with my mom. So
that's great.
I get a chance to spend a lot of time with my mom. She's my best friend, and we definitely like best friends. When we get together and we go places, people look at us like, "Oh, You're like two sisters.
Yeah, your mother must love that.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great. Yeah, it's nice being in the family business, and even like when we do twice a year, we do a family vacation with all the kids,
Nice.
grandkids,
Awesome.
son-in-laws and stuff like
I love
that.
it.
We still have the rest of the team that
On
is
the
like
ground.
Ed and Charlie.
Nice.
They're not coming on the family vacation. It's the immediate family, but they're covering the bases.
Awesome.
And then a lot of the inspectors that I mentor, as time goes on, I see what good inspectors they are, and I'll let them pick up a couple of inspections for us if we're away, or sometimes we just get slammed with inspections in one day. And it's good to have a good network of people that you can rely on. I think it's really, really important.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned something earlier that you are on top of everything that you do and running such busy life. I respect the fact that you are a family man and have a wife and the kids and the family. I love that. How do you find the time to do the trainings? And I know you're certified licensed trainer also.
What we do is
So you train new professionals that are coming into the business?
yes, I teach in a school like we were talking earlier. You need your 100 hours.
Right.
So there's the education part of it, and then the field work.
So for anybody who wants to become a licensed home inspector, how many hours do they have to go through education?
100
so it's
hours.
100 hours of education.
Correct.
And what happens next?
Then they have to go out into the field and do 10 inspections with a licensed inspector. And then they could sit down and take the New York State test, pass it, and technically they're a licensed home inspector.
So they could start working.
They could start working. But I always explain to them, don't jump in with both feet right away. Stick with a licensed inspector that's been doing it a while and really learn the craft and the trade from that person, and just make it suitable for both of you. And like I said earlier, there's so much business out there.
Absolutely.
There's so much business. As a home inspection company, if you look at the market share in the industry, if you're doing 3, 4, 5% of the market share, you're doing well.
Right.
Where's the other 90, 95% going? Why not train people that you can help out?
Nice.
And the gentleman, I wrote his name down, the podcast you did.
Avram?
Avram, there you go.
Yeah.
He talked about that.
Right.
He said, you got to give to get.
Correct.
And I cannot agree with him more, because it's not about the money.
Right.
It's if you can help somebody
Right.
achieve their goals and not have a financial gain or reward from it, you get it back tenfold in another way.
Karma.
Exactly.
Universe.
And look what you said a little while ago. You have the beautiful opportunity to spend time with your mom
Yes.
as your best friend.
Yes.
That doesn't just happen. There's reasons why that happens.
Of course.
There's reasons why something you do in your life, you help somebody, you get it back full circle. Your family's healthy.
Thank
you
God.
have kids. You start having grandkids. You go
Yeah.
away on family vacations.
Yes.
Why? Because you
You do
wind
the
up-
right thing.
Exactly. You help people out. And
Right.
it comes back
Absolutely.
tenfold. I mentored a gentleman in Brooklyn. He takes care of Brooklyn. He does it. He goes on vacation. He's like, Rob, I'm getting phone calls. Can you cover? Sure. And
Nice.
vice versa. He's licensed in Jersey. I won't go to Jersey because from Long Island, it's a trip. But he
Right.
lives in Brooklyn.
Excellent.
Call him up. Eli, go take care of the inspections in Jersey. And it's a good symbiotic relationship.
Rotating.
Yes.
It's like number 8. Infinity.
Exactly.
Infinity.
Yep.
Goes around, comes around. Goes around, comes around.
Yep.
Well, I'm a big believer in that. I believe in
true.
whatever you put out, it will come back to you. You put out good stuff would come back. You put out bad, you will get it back anyway. And I'm very big in that. Wow, we have covered so much, but we have more. What about licensed brokers? I know that you also have certification to train for real estate agents as a continuing education.
Yes.
So let's cover that.
So I'm New York State licensed to offer the continuing ed classes for the real estate professionals. I know that you have to take 12 mandatory classes on your renewal. Like there's different kinds of like an ethics or fair housing.
Yes.
I'm actually certified to teach 3 of those.
Mm.
So what I do is I hold classes.
22 and a half hours every 2 years.
Correct. We're 24 hours in the home inspection industry.
Mm-hmm.
But we can pick and choose what we want.
Right.
But being that I teach that, that goes towards my teaching. So for every 1 hour I teach, I get 2 credit hours towards my license.
Oh, wow.
So for me, it's great.
Absolutely.
And I love to teach. I love to share my
You're
knowledge.
a giving soul.
I try. I really do. And I feel that if you can help, even in our industry,
Right.
you always want to hear about the good inspectors.
Right.
My drive is to try to help everybody be a good inspector, whether it's a real estate person uses that other person, but it was a good inspection. I love to hear that.
Right.
I don't like hearing the ones that didn't really. Perfect example.
Right.
The inspection
With the other
we
case,
did.
right.
Just do your job, and the only way you're going to learn that is by being in the field with someone that cares and really knows what they're doing.
Right.
So, with that, on the real estate side, for the real estate professionals like yourself, we come in and we do a class. We could do it in your office, privately, get the whole group together, or a lot of times mortgage companies or title companies or other people ask me to come in because I'm licensed, and they'll use that as a marketing tool
Absolutely.
to say, we're going to hold this event. Rob's going to come in and teach, whatever classes we
Right.
decide, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours. We
Right.
kind of break it up. Then the title or mortgage people are able to market themselves
To promote. Right.
Exactly. So it's a win-win situation.
Right.
So they sponsor it. I do my thing required by the state to teach the class. But at the same time, if someone's sponsoring it, they get to talk and do their thing.
Excellent.
But really, it's coming down to the education part of it. It's all about networking.
Absolutely.
So it works out great. It's a good environment. We do it with a lot of offices. We've done it with your office a couple of times where we come
Right.
in and teach them. And what I like the most is that we're all new at some point.
Right.
Getting in there and helping the new agents learn the craft, learn
Right.
what needs to be done, help
Right.
them. Because my feeling is if you're a real estate person that is not saying you're going to do a home inspection, but are knowledgeable about the house, that when you take your buyer out and you're walking them around, and you could point certain things out.
Right.
Like, well, I'm not sure that roof might need to change that roof, but let's see what the inspector says.
Right.
Then the inspector comes and says, by the way, you need a new
Confirms.
roof. And I turn around and I say, you see what happens when you work with a good real estate professional?
Yeah.
She knew the roof might be questionable.
Right.
Same thing I always tell the agents. Don't just go through the front door and look at the house. Walk your client around the outside first.
Right.
Do like what we do on an inspection. Just kind of get a feel. Point, oh, wow, that's a nice patio. This is nice. You look up, the electric looks a little weird. You could see the wires. You might need new electric. And then as you go around, you just bring it to their attention.
Right.
You see that oil fill is, we might have a buried oil tank.
Right.
Or we see certain things that are
Hazard.
right. Or it might be, a little water in the basement because I see that downspout is discharging against the house. But let's see. And you go through it and then you're opening their eyes. Not, most clients are like, what size is this room? What color paint? I'm like, don't worry
That's
about
not
that.
important.
That's not important. Let's just get down and do it. But with the real estate professionals, that's an added benefit
Absolutely.
to the client. So the
100%.
more educated you get, again, you're not going to do an inspection, but you're going to bring things to their
Absolutely.
attention. Say, so not when we go there, it's like, well, you need this, you need that, you need the other thing. And it's good because then we can edify you folks as well. And from the heart, honestly, it's like you have good real estate agents, you have good home inspectors, and like everything else in the world, you have the good and you have the ones that, I don't want to say bad. They
Need
don't-
improvement.
Thank you. That's a good way of putting it. Yes. No,
Need
you're
improvement.
absolutely. maybe it's the education part.
Absolutely.
And I enjoy doing it. I enjoy going in and speaking to the new ones. And every time I do a course, veteran, realtors that have been around a while, they're like, I learned a couple of new things today.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel good. It's like, that's what I like to hear.
Well, you just touched upon something super important, and I want to put it out there. I'm going to take a moment, and I will put it out there. You have no idea how many phone calls I get throughout the day, the month, the year, where agents are, not agents, actually, people that are looking to become agents, watching different concept of, whether it's $1 million listing show, whether it's my videos, whether it's other people. And I think as the realtors, we always like to put out the best. We never put out our dirty laundry out. And people are watching us and they saying, oh my God, I also want to do this. Because people get the perception that all we do is just show houses throughout the day, and all we do is just so much fun, and we make so much money. That's not the case. There is so much involved behind the scenes.
Yes.
And this is one of the reasons why I decided to produce this show and this episodes is I want to bring out the best and the ugly. Mm-hmm. Because it's not all that pretty. Right? And we do work endless amount of hours. We do work on weekends where people are enjoying life. We do work on holidays. We do work on late nights. We have no schedule. People could create their own schedule, which is 9 to 5. I don't see how you could become successful in real estate by doing only 9 to 5. But that's not our life. In order for us to have a good life and really produce a lot of business and help a lot of people, we need to really be available technically 24/7. The only time when the phone gets shut down, maybe not even shut down, but just to the side, when you go to sleep. And when we wake up, it starts with, yoga, meditation, your routine, but then you go back. Even sometimes during my yoga meditations, my phone rings and I have to respond back with text messages. But on top of it, the reason why I brought this up is because it's endless ways and opportunities and time invested into learning and growing. And so I want to put this message out there to every single one that's watching me personally. If you are ready, willing, and able to work on yourself as a human first, because let's just agree, whomever knew me 20 years ago, I'm not the same Olga. Whomever knew me when they first met me, when I first joined Douglas Sellerman in 2008, I'm not the same Olga. I am always learning and I'm always growing and I'm always pushing myself and my team and my family to go to events, to go to all kinds of training, masterminds, like you name it, you got it. My personally kids went through enormous amount of events, masterminds in San Diego and Tony Robbins and Tom Ferry, and you know it. I had to go. I would take them and I would book it around their life and schedule where I would go into like 4 or 5 different mastermind events. And then I would just book the family vacation either before or after. So I always brought them with me. They never had a choice. We're going. That's what mommy is doing. That's what daddy is doing. And you're coming with me because it's part of our life. Mm-hmm. And that's how I blended the family to be part of what I do. I make it very interesting for them. And that's how they enjoy what I do. Even the days when we sometimes don't see each other, like too busy, they got their schedule, I got my schedule. And if we don't see each other and talk for like 2-3 days, they're like, Mom, what did we miss out? I'm like, a lot. Meet me in the office on Sunday.
That's a good point. And you touched on the fact that I don't think people realize the amount of time that you invest in a client and running around and meeting them and showing them, especially in this market.
Right.
People have to see 15, 20 houses before they really even
win the offer.
Exactly. I get these phone calls all the time. We're scheduled to do an inspection. They call me up that night. They're like, we got outbid by X amount of dollars. Wow. We have to cancel the inspection. All right. Call me when you need me.
Right.
So if we don't even though they were booked, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Right.
So I thank them. I'll say, thanks, because now you just gave me the couple of hours off in the morning that I would have done your inspection.
Talk to Olga.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So I don't think people realize.
The amount of hours.
Yes. And then.
It's life. It's a life.
Yes. And
It's a commitment to a new life.
Yes.
It's a commitment to a new lifestyle because it's not just you. It's not just your immediate family, but also people like your mom, your dad, your sisters, your brothers. Like if we have events on Sundays between, let's say, 11 and 5 on Sundays, I'm never there. They will never see Olga in these events
You're out.
unless it's something extremely sentimental and important and significant.
Right. Because you're out.
Because I'm
Showing
working.
houses,
I'm
yeah.
doing open houses.
See?
I'm doing private appointments. Sundays are the days for us to dedicate to public. So this way they could find the right homes for them. But listen, it's just a journey. It's life. I made that commitment. You made that commitment. But not too many people understand it. And looking at everything that's pretty, I want people to understand it comes with a big price.
Yeah. It's commitment. It's a commitment.
It's a big commitment.
And you and I spoke earlier with Boris and
Avram.
Coming from the male part, we talked about it.
You're right.
Behind every man,
Successful man.
is a good woman.
Yes.
And I agree with that because not only we're both fortunate to be in the family business.
Right.
So my wife's a pediatrician.
Oh, wow.
So she respects what I do as well as I respect what she does because she works with special needs children. And she knows that if I have to be out there on a Sunday morning or a Sunday afternoon, it's my job. It's what I signed up for because people are depending on you and me to find the biggest investment of their lives.
Correct.
Their house, where they're going to raise their families, where they're going to live. So the fact that everybody's on the same page and understands and respects one another. But like you said, if you wind up having to do a important event, like if it's a family wedding or something, you pivot. You make that happen.
Yeah.
But listen, if it's a baseball game or a hockey game, there's another baseball game, there's another hockey game, so we'll go next week or Monday. And it never comes up where, oh my God, you have to work again today? No. Because when we want to plan those family vacations and we all go away, we can.
Right.
What do they say? Work hard, play hard?
Right.
So we do. I mean, I go every year. I go with my sons. We go on a scuba diving trip to the Cayman Islands.
Wow.
Just the three of us.
Wow.
And we look, unfortunately, we haven't done it because of COVID, but
That's the rewarding chip.
yes, just us, just the guys.
Love it.
And it's a totally different
Love
dynamic.
it. Yeah.
You know, it's
So you're looking forward to it. You're working hard, and then when it's time to get on that airplane, you're like, woohoo!
Yep. Get down there.
Let's go.
Cayman Islands, scuba dive. And,
Yeah.
you know, I always tell people scuba diving is nice because you level the playing field. Now, my son Christopher still plays competitive hockey. I could never put those skates on because, God forbid, I twist an ankle or do something, you know,
You got to
not
watch
you,
out.
but me, older. I got to be careful.
All right.
But when you scuba dive, it's a level playing field.
Right.
You get neutrally buoyant and you drift and dream. So there's no, you know, there's some physical exertion, but it's not, you're not competing against another team. It's just you guys. And then when you come up from the dive, it's the whole topic of conversation throughout dinner.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, did you see this? Did you see that shark? Did you see that octopus underneath the rock?
Yeah.
But it does become competitive because the question is, so how much air did you use on your dive? So the person that uses the least amount of air is the so-called winner. You know,
Wow.
it's like you kind of go to the gym and it's like, oh, how much can you bench press? So with us, when we scuba dive, it's like, who used the least amount of air? So it's always, you know, with us guys, it always has to be competition somewhere along the line.
That's why you were featured on Newsday. This is why you were featured on the front cover of Newsday. And when I spoke to you last, right, you told me this amazing news. I was like, wow, did you have to pay for this? And you're like, no. Wow. So you were selected among how many, like probably thousands and thousands of other home inspectors on Long Island.
It was,
And look, guys, this is This is my wonderful and amazing friend who is on the front cover of Newsday. And he is also on the inside
With
right?
a Douglas Elliman
Elliman.
realtor.
Wow, this is unbelievable.
Somebody in your group.
Wow, this is unbelievable. So this is exactly what happens when you do things right, when you are the best at what you do. You put in amount of hours, your life, your energy, you do so much for people, right? And eventually universe rewards you with this amazing, amazing opportunity to be on the front cover. And I'm sure you've gotten really great exposure. This is your branding. This is your opportunity to be out there and to really showcase the best version of who you are, right? When people want to get the best quality of everything, where do they go? They go and they know where to find it. And this is what I want for my clients, and that's why I invited you to this podcast, is because I am also, with so much love, putting out so many hours of thinking and brainstorming. Who should be next? What do my clients really would enjoy watching? What do they really need? Why is it important? Why is it important to me? And why is it going to be important to them? And my goal is to build this channel to educate my followers, to educate every single one that has the opportunity to watch me and to really connect with me. And I was very, very blessed a year and a half ago when I came up with this idea and when I started doing all these recordings and when I just kind of like randomly handpick and I say, you'll be my next.
Nice.
And I get a lot of phone calls and people question me like, how do you come up with an idea who's going to be next? It really all depends on what do I feel mentally and emotionally, who is needed next. But my goal is to educate my clients, my current, my future, and my potential clients to the point of understanding that it's not just hit and run way of doing business. I want to give so much value, education, and opportunity for clients to understand that we care, we love, and we enjoy what we do. And in return, what I want from them is to help me find people that are ready, willing, and able to buy and sell real estate. This is how I pretty much can put in more time into doing what I love at the time when we need to do so, especially nowadays when everything has become so openly available. And I think people get very overwhelmed and confused because there is so much information and people out there that do business. But some people are very trustworthy and really have so many wonderful reviews. How many reviews you got?
We have over 500 five-star reviews.
That's a long way for me to catch up on.
And that was after Google, you know how Google is. They just shift things around.
Right.
They took down one of our locations for no reason at all. I actually had to hire an attorney to send them a letter and say, if you can explain to us why this happened, let us know. No explanation. But
So they put it back on.
They put it back on. But
So how many
some of the
total reviews now?
It's probably about 300-400 now because we have
Wow.
a couple of different locations.
So 300 to 400, very
stars.
happy, satisfied, 5-star reviews. That's incredible.
And like you said before, it's all organic. It's
Wow.
nothing's
It's
paid
incredible.
for. And you do a good job. You ask people at the end of the inspection. You send them a link. They're happy to do it.
Excellent.
Happy.
Excellent.
And what's nice is when you align yourself with people like yourself, we become like the client. They get a nice house. Their friends come over for a barbecue. They're in the backyard. They love the house. It's a nice house. They understand everything about the house because there's no such thing as a perfect house. We do new construction that we can go off on another 4-hour podcast on
Right.
the new construction, as you know. But they walk into that house and it's nice and they're like, oh, this is great. And what do you think they say? Oh, yes, Olga and her family found me this house.
Yes.
And then it just builds good relationship and rapport with people because that's what we do. We want to make sure that people are happy and they recommend us. All of our business is word of mouth recommendation
That's
from folks like you that really want their client to get a good house, understand what they're getting in the house, and enjoy it over time and just understand what you have to do to own a
amazing.
house.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, this is why Gabriel actually wanted to work with you, because when he saw your reviews, probably, he gets very excited when people have a lot of reviews. And this is the key. Like, I'm going to give one little secret, right, to the public. If you want to grow your business, one of the most important components nowadays is reviews, organic reviews from clients that have used your services and truly satisfied with everything that you have done for them. But in return, if you're thinking in the back of your head that you want to get that good raving review, imagine what kind of work you're going to put in yourself way up front before that review even comes in.
Correct.
Right? So I think it's the way people train themselves. It's like going to the gym and training your muscles. There is no hiccups. There is no bad reputation. There is no bad experience. People just have very smooth, very professional, and easy experience overall. And this is my goal, is to really recommend my clients to people like yourself, people that have on Newsday, people that have many reviews, people that have good reputation, and that I could feel good that I refer them to a good home inspector, that tomorrow they will call me and say, Olga, thank you for referring me because I enjoyed working with this individual, whether it's home inspectors, with licensed contractors, whether it's electricians, whether it's plumbers, it doesn't matter. Okay? We have a very large pool of people that we are coming together and building this empire, and in return our clients could enjoy. Because in the end of the day, we have one goal in common, client satisfaction and their happiness in the end. And for them, as a reminder, to be our walking and talking billboards for life.
Correct.
That's the goal, right?
Yep. And it's a good point that you bring up, because when you make that referral, what I like to do with my clients and the real estate professional like yourself, I tell them, start a 3-way text.
Right.
These are some little nuggets. Start a 3-way text. So you're going to introduce me to our client. Now, what people don't understand is Mr. and Mrs. Smith are our clients.
Correct.
So working together as a team. So you start the initial 3-way text.
Conversation.
Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I want to introduce you to Rob. This is the home inspector. Ba, ba, ba. Great. I jump in on the text and I say, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Let me know when's a good time to jump on the phone call. I want to talk to my clients before I get on the property. I don't want to meet them for the first time and say, hi, how are you? 95% of the times when we get to the inspection, it's like they're friends already because we talked about it. They'll open up to you. They'll say, yeah, you know, we're buying this house, but we're at the end of our budget. Hopefully there's not a lot of big issues here because we really don't have that kind of money to do it. Or they say to you, yep, no matter what, we're buying this house. We just want to know what we have to do because our parents are going to be picking our children up off the bus. So you get to understand people. So just like you with driving people around, we don't just show up with our thermal imaging cameras and our moisture meters and our ladders to get on the roof. We talk to the client before, during, and so much time after. Because when they get the report, they still have questions. They can always call me. And I know, like you, I drive around a lot. We're bouncing between inspections. And I tell my client, listen, I'm available between 1 and 3 today. I'm driving. And I thank them. I'm like, thanks for keeping me company. I'm driving home tonight. I'll be on the road from 5 to 7. Feel free to call me. And we talk. So we're driving in our car. It's our office. We're adding another layer of service. See, great minds think alike. To our clients. And it comes back to you.
Yeah.
And it also comes back to me. And I'm like, I'm so glad Olga referred us. And I get phone calls and texts and pictures years and years later. Quick funny story. Did an inspection for a young couple. They just got married. Bought a huge house. 7 bedrooms, 5 baths. Like, okay. So me, we do an inspection and I like to, joke around and have fun and connect. A good way to put it. So I'm like, 7 bedrooms, 5 baths.
How many kids are you planning
know where
to
I was
have?
going with this. So I'm like, oh no, we want a big family. Like, well, this
Getting
is the
ready.
house. Do you know, like a year, maybe 2 years later, I get a text from them with their names and a picture of the back bedroom, and it's pink. So I'm like, oh my goodness. Yep, we're starting on baby number 1. It's a girl. Thank you so much. We talked about that back bedroom, and we all agreed that would be a great nursery. So years later, you get this, and it's just so rewarding and
It's not easy, but
nice.
it's worth it. I always say that.
Yes. Nothing comes easy.
Nothing. The journey is not easy, but the end result is so well worth it.
Rewarded. Yes.
Well, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. This was an amazing, amazing, amazing journey together and time that we spent together. I really learned so much from you. Every time we talk and connect, I pick up so many great information from you. And I'm very, very sure that our listeners that will be watching this episode today will definitely be very interested in reaching out to you for those that are ready, willing, and able to buy a house, as I always say. And hopefully this journey will continue to grow and the opportunities will come together. Well, we will come back with a couple of more friends of yours, right?
Yes. Put a little teaser out there. I think that's a great
right.
idea. The real estate attorney, I think, would be awesome.
Absolutely. And
Dave and John.
Dave and John.
That's the
and
mold and the remediation. I spoke to them
that's
already.
what's coming soon.
They would love to do that.
Absolutely.
And I think it's good that you touched on. And the same thing, even if it's not people that are looking to buy a house, if it's a real
Educational.
a real estate professional like yourself. I also tell my real estate folks that I have a nice relationship with, I'm like, if you're going to show a house and you're not sure of something, take pictures, take videos, send it to me. I'll tell you what I think it is or what might be the case. And it helps them a lot because they can go back to the client and say, by the way, I think it's this, or that. So that's always an added benefit.
Value.
Like just take pictures.
Right.
Take videos. I have real estate agents that do it all the time. Like, Rob, is this asbestos? I'm like, yes, it's asbestos. And we talk about it, and they learn. So they bring another value add to their clients. Oh, by the way, I'm going to reach out to my friend. He's a home inspector, and I'm going to see if this is A, B, or C.
Right.
And they do it, and it works out well. And people are prepared if they're going to go through the inspection or potentially buy the house. So it works out well. But yes, if any of your listeners or friends or anybody, you can share my information with them. Like we said, I don't know why we made Newsday, but I kind of have a funny feeling.
Share with our audience how people can get in touch with you. What's your information?
You could reach us, and I always tell people to look at the website, Higher Elevation LLC. The LLC is very important because if you go and you punch in Higher Elevation without the LLC, you come up to a marijuana plant growing company.
Oh, wow.
No joke. It's like I get people call me. It's like, somebody gave me a number, but are you connected with the No, we're not. No, we don't sell weed. We don't do any of that. But yes, it's Higher Elevation LLC. You'll see our website.
What's your contact number?
516-509-9091. Usually pick up the phone. I don't have a answering service or VA or anything like that. I'll answer it. If I'm on an inspection, I'll just say, hey, you mind if I call you back in about an hour? But in the meantime, just text me the property. I could look at it when I call them back, have a nice conversation with them. But it's anybody has questions as far as in the industry, they need help with something, they want to learn. We're going to be setting up some continuing ed classes with your group.
We're getting ready.
So it'll be fun on any of the events that we do, and looking forward to coming in and doing
absolutely
the other
many
podcasts
more.
with the attorney and the professionals in our industry that, like you said, put the team together and everybody works.
Give
well.
value to public, right?
Yes.
Give value to public.
Absolutely.
If you want to change the world, start with yourself. That's what I believe in.
So true.
One last piece that I would like to cover with you, if that's something very significant to me personally. I love giving value to my clients, and I think one of the most important component that I would like to cover at the moment is speaking of pre-inspections. Have you come across those with agents, and how do those turn out? And how is it preventing a potential, actually an active seller, because they're already a client, right? If they retain my services, I would like to bring you on and do home pre-inspections. So this way we know up front, before the buyer has to go in the contract, what to expect.
That is very, very smart on your part, because what we do is, and again, we have a relationship, so you can mention to the seller that, and again, it's not about financial gain. sometimes the agent will know the seller and they'll say there might be a fee or whatever. I do it as a service to
The
my
client.
agents
Right.
like you
Right.
to help you out.
Right.
And a lot of my close agents that I'm friendly with, on a personal level, I tell them, if that's going to help you get the listing, because remember, you're going to go to a house and they're going to be interviewing 5 other realtors.
Right.
But your foot in the door is going to be
Standing out
by saying, Mr. and Mr. Smith, Mrs. Jones, whoever, I'm going to offer you a pre-inspection. Now, it doesn't matter. Again, it's not about the money, because for people like you and other people in the industry that I have a very good relationship with, it's not about the money. It's about if I could help you get that listing
Right.
by doing this,
Right.
and it's proof is in
Golden.
the pudding. I know for a fact that it works, and you get the listing. So we go through the house, no reports involved. It's just pointing certain things out,
Right.
saying this is going to come up. It's clear as day that this window's broke, or you need electric, or the roof is questionable. Maybe the roof isn't
Termites
that bad.
is
Right.
a big thing.
Maybe the roof isn't that bad, because we go to houses where the roof could be 10, 11, 12 years old, but the trees are overhanging it, and there's no sun, and there's a ton of moss. Clean the roof. It's going to cost you a couple of dollars, but when the inspector comes, this is not an issue
Nothing
with the
to-
roof.
right.
So prep certain
Prevent
things.
it.
Exactly.
Preventative
Take care of
care.
things. Trim the shrubs up in the front of the
Right.
house. Take care of that tree that's overhanging. Clear it up. Extend the gutters and downspouts. Because when we come there as an inspector and we come up to a house that's well maintained, it gives you a good feeling. It's okay,
Right.
this
Clean
person's
house.
maintaining that house. And then we could highlight those things to our
Absolutely.
clients. Say, look, this is maintained. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're going to continue to do. The mechanicals are being serviced on a regular basis. Whatever the company is, you can see it's clean, it's functioning properly. Maybe you continue to use that company. But the seller will know what to expect. And it's been proven that when you do the pre-inspections, it's a smoother transition
Yes.
for you professionals.
Right.
And it makes sense if you think about it. You don't do a pre-inspection. So house goes on the market, you get an offer, somebody comes in to do the inspection. Now you're dealing with those issues from the inspection time. You already have a month in, so now you're extending it. We do the inspection on Monday. The inspection's done. The client gets the report Tuesday. It's going to their attorney. It's going back and forth.
Wednesday.
Exactly. So now you're Thursday. You're going back and forth. Now it's a week, 10 days. But if you do a pre-inspection, you know what's
It
going to come
eliminates.
up. How are we going to address this when it comes up, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller? What are we going to do? You know you need new electric. Either do it, fix it, or say
Offer and
a credit.
credit.
Exactly. Simple. It's just nice, smooth. It's
Right.
like going to the gym.
Right.
You stretch and you warm up before you start lifting weights.
Right.
This
Same
is the
thing here.
same concept. It's invaluable to the real estate profession. Now, I know there's some people like, oh, we don't want to know what's wrong. That day's gone, right?
Yeah, no.
That day's gone.
Especially with new property condition disclosure. Speaking
my
of
point.
property condition disclosure, there is a talk in the air that we're going to pass on this property condition disclosure to inspectors and say, oh, check everything off, the truth, check off the truth. But yeah, the industry is changing and consumer doesn't know everything that we are going through. There's a lot of changes that are in the air, pretty much already official. And we can communicate that privately, one-on-one. When we get a phone call from a potential client or an active seller, we cover it all. And I do want to always have people understand that we do not ask people for business unless we are ready mutually to work together. Because it takes two to tango, right? I need to feel comfortable that you are a good client for my portfolio. And then the client has to feel comfortable that I could deliver the service that they are expecting of us. And so that's when my team comes in, and that's where we build this beautiful experience for our clients where it becomes seamless, no problems, no challenges. And everyone is happy, and everyone is pretty much on their next chapter of life.
Perfect example. Didn't we just do one for your sister recently?
Yes,
There you go.
absolutely. My
She's
sister
planning
had
on selling.
yes,
Had
yes,
some concerns.
yes.
We
My
spoke
sister
to-
is another potential client to be, hopefully down the road soon.
Yep.
She's getting her house in order. She's not sure yet when this is going to happen. They're watching the rates. They're watching the market. They're watching what's going to come up. But they are already, as living in the house, they are watching every single little situation that is important to remediate. If anything that's alarming, they would like to make sure that it's taken care of before they put it on the market.
Correct. And they did that with the water management in the basement.
Yes, absolutely.
I was there with your brother-in-law, super nice guy.
Thank
Went
you.
through it, nice house. Said just, maintain certain things, do certain things.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that was perfect example. You're setting it up that when
Yeah.
she decides to sell, it's going to be smooth. There's going to be no hiccups. Yes, we addressed this, we addressed that. What do you?
Done deal.
Yeah. We talked about the roof. We talked about a lot
Outstanding.
of nice things. So you're living proof that
Absolutely.
it 100% is smart to do.
Thank you.
But that's great.
Thank you, my dear, so much for
Same
coming
here.
over to this amazing podcast. We are coming closer to wrapping up. We've spent a long time together, and there's so much value that we're putting out there for public, for the consumer, for all our followers, listeners, and every single one that loves watching our content. I am doing the best I possibly can. If you would like to send a comment and tell me exactly what's needed next, I will gladly bring you guys here. Every single one that's needed for you to feel comfortable that this is what you want to hear and learn from. But my journey and my goal is to give you so much value that you guys enjoy watching every single episode. Subscribe to my channel, share, and please follow. And remember, we are always here to provide a great value. To each and every one of you that's watching, I want to say thank you for your time and for being my amazing, amazing listeners and followers. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. It was great. It was nice to meet
This-
everybody in on the team. That
Thank
was
you.
great. You got a nice
Thank you.
crew.